Let's talk about who some of those acts are. At this point, you're now the head waitress through
Yes.
a variety of circumstances at the Riverboat, at the heyday of Yorkville's real blooming and the blooming of the Canadian sound in many,
Yes.
many ways.
Absolutely.
Who are the acts that are coming through besides Lightfoot, who's your epiphany in starting this whole thing off?
Yeah, he's so totally responsible for me getting involved in the music, although I'm not sure I've ever told him exactly. Well, Sonny and Brownie, John Lee Hooker, Jerry Jeff Walker. I have a funny story about Jerry Jeff Walker. Chris Christopherson, John Prine, Steve Goodman, John Hartford, Tom Rush, Tim Harden, Tim Buckley, father of Jeff.
Yes.
Very few women in those days. It's sad to say. I never worked with Joni, and I never worked with Neil Young, just to set the record straight. Ronnie Abramson, who was a lovely singer, and she's now in real estate in Toronto. Mary McLaughlin, Bruce Coburn, David Whiffin, Ian Thomas, Mark Jordan, Joe Mendelsohn, who was Joe Mendelsohn at the time, not Mendelsohn Joe, who would have absolutely no shame and no embarrassment about he would have a sandwich board saying, "At the Riverboat, Joe Mendelsohn," and he'd walk up and down Yonge Street to try and drive people in. He was amazing.
Right.
Jesse Fuller, who would drive in his station wagon all the way from California, because he was an old man then, and he would stay in his station wagon and he'd use the Riverboat washroom because he'd never made any money as an impoverished 80-something. At that time, I think he was probably 80-something. He didn't want to spend any of his salary. He wanted to send it home for his grandkids.
But also people who don't always get the credit for having come from that scene. David Wilcox,
Yes.
who's a legendary rock and blues guy. I don't think a lot of people associate him with that
No.
scene. Dan Hill, whose prowess as a songwriter is almost
Who,
unmatched.
by the way, I gave the first guest set to, Dan Hill. This barefooted, long curly hair, and he sang, this 19-year-old, and he sang, "You Make Me Want to Be," and I'm going, where did that come from? It's like Shirley Eichhardt's song that Anne did. Where do these songs come from? These are magical things that happen. I think that was probably one of the big influences for me, was seeing how songs, and going off to another tangent, Tim Harden always told me that the songs, he had no control. He had the pen and they came through him. And I tend to believe that. So it was all these people who just came through the Riverboat, and they got shots where they never had them before. Jim Croce did a guest set with the Good Brothers because he happened to be in town and said, "Could he?" And I said, "Yeah." I didn't know who he was. We had Ry Cooder, we had Phil Oakes, all these legends. They all played the Riverboat, and what an amazing thing to have happen, to have that.